Hey guys, welcome into this week's edition of the Scorers Table here on JacksonSun.com. I'm Jackson Sun sports editor Brandon Shields, and he is our local college sports writer Craig Thomas. And Craig, we got about a month left before conference tournaments start for our local colleges. Just kind of, how are things looking for each team, and what are some big games going on this weekend?
Well, there's a handful of big games. Just tonight, Thursday night, Bethel's got a big doubleheader against Martin Methodist. Just now that we're talking about Bethel, the guys are they're in an okay spot. They should, I think, make that Southern States tournament. That's one where you have to qualify. You got to be in the top 10, and they should be there. As long as they play pretty steady, I guess. Right now, if it ended, they'd be okay. You're not going to get a real high seed probably, but they'll be in the mix and give themselves a chance. Bethel women will be one of the higher seeds. It looks like there's obviously shooting for that number one. They want to win the conference, and they feel like they have enough of a pedigree at this point. They should be able to pretty much go in and be one of the top teams in a league like that. And they've been one of the top teams, and I think that this Thursday game is an opportunity for them to show that they are the top team. Going forward. Just looking at the other schools, Union, is not in the conference tournament situation until next year.
Right.
They'll be in the National Christian College event, in March, and so that's something they can play for. But in the interim, they can try and win, I guess, the regular season for the Gulf South. Technically, it doesn't really count in that sense, but you still do get to the games still count in the conference standings, and Union wants to be at the top, and they've been. Their women are, I think, third right now. Delta State's leading in both. They've had a really good year down there. But the Union women have played pretty well. They've won 5 straight, which is obviously a good accomplishment in that league. And the Union men had a rough loss the other night, but both of them have 3 straight road games coming up, so they can kind of try and get some wins there.
Right. And technically, at this point, until Union gets, I guess, officially inducted into NCAA Division II and the Gulf South Conference, they can't win anything and hang a banner for it.
Right. It's the official stuff. But next year they're in. They're in just like anybody else. So obviously you're kind of working to build that sort of program and tradition. People are going to know next year where Union women and men stand. They're going to have an idea of what the programs are just based on these last 2 years.
All right. Well, last week, Freed-Hardeman's men, they were tied for number 1 in the country. Took their first loss of the season to
Lindenwood Belleville at the buzzer. Basically, I think about a 30-foot shot at the buzzer. So
wow.
Just one of those things. Obviously, you didn't want to be. That's what happens sometimes when you maybe don't play your best and you have just a 2-point lead at the end. But probably a little bit of a fluke there in the way that ended. But really, all it does is just means they're not ranked number 1 anymore. They're number 3. But I think overall, you take that 18-1 and got a couple games on the road here tonight and then Saturday as well. So they're playing really well. They definitely look like a team going to Kansas City, and we haven't had a team from this area go to Kansas City for a couple of years. So that's I guess the prognosis for them looks really good. And obviously for the Freed-Hardeman women, they've continued to cruise, still undefeated. And I'd expect them to stay that way at least through this weekend. They'll have some more tough games later on. Particularly that road game against Columbia looks like it'll be a challenge. Just given the fact that team does have talent and is probably a little bit better than they showed in Henderson a couple weeks ago. But obviously Free looks really, really good, and I think they'll probably be a number 1 seed in Frankfort in about a month or so.
Speaking of teams that are rolling through their conferences, particularly on the women's side, UTM. We talked last few weeks about Freed-Hardeman. Kind of, you're wondering if they're going to see any competition until the NAIA tournament. Is UTM? I know that the competition is probably a little more tougher in the OVC, but are they at a point where everybody's just kind of assuming, okay, they've gotten to this point undefeated in conference play? Pretty much, it's the regular season championship is theirs to lose.
Yeah, I think so. They've got a 3-game lead on everybody right now. Regardless of divisions, and they've got no losses in conference. Everybody else has at least 3. One of the chances where you think they might take a loss would have been this last game at Eastern Kentucky, a team that's leading the East, and they won by 22. UTM did. So that was a big statement there that another team that's going to be a challenger that they put away pretty easily on the road. So I think I think really at the beginning of the year, UTM was a pretty clear favorite to win this conference. That's what happens when you win the tournament 3 years in a row.
Right.
And when you have your top players back. But now, it would take a monster collapse for them to even get to get anything other than a 1 seed. And it doesn't matter too much as far as whether you get that 1 or 2, I don't think. But as long as you get the 1 or 2, and essentially winning your division, then you get to skip to Friday in the OVC tournament.
Right.
You only have to play 2 games. And if you remember last year, all 3 of the games they had were dicey at some point. There was, a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of doubt, and you just essentially take away 1 chance you have to lose. And, when you're in the Ohio Valley Conference, it's all about winning that conference tournament. So I think really, these games are important coming up, but really you can start to, as a fan, look toward those 2 conference tournament games and hoping that, the Skyhawks are at their best for those 2, which are going to really determine what this season's all about.
All right, well, we got about 3 weeks left in the season. Kind of on the other end of the spectrum is UT Martin's men. They're if the regular season ended today and they see the tournament, UTM's men would not be in the tournament, right? How much of a chance do they have of kind of going on a run and getting in there?
Well, we're going to find out in about, I think, the next 8 or 10 days. They've got 3 road games coming up starting tonight against Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois is a team they beat in Martin, so that's a winnable game. And at some point, they haven't won a whole lot of games. They've only just won 2 in conference. At some point, you have to start winning some games that are maybe not gimmies, but they're winnable. And I think tonight's a big one, and they got another road game on Saturday, and then another one next week before they have 4 straight at home. To finish the regular season. So that's a good thing, but you can't go over 3. I don't think. If you go over 3 on the road here, you probably played yourself out of it. You've given yourself almost no cushion, if any at all. Whereas if you win 1 or 2 here on the road, then you've given yourself an opportunity to do something at home and maybe sneak up and get that 7 or 8 seed there at the end. Because there's not a lot of great teams in the OVC. It doesn't seem like really the best year for men's basketball. There's a couple pretty good ones, but there's definitely some. There's not a whole lot of certainty yet.
Sure.
There's a lot of spots where they're still kind of in flux. So UT Martin can get one of those spots. And the thing to kind of remember overall is just this team has the athletes to do it. When you look at Mike Libo and Miles Taylor and Terrence Smith and Marshawn Newell, that's enough pieces, I think, to win OVC games.
Right.
They've only won 2, so they still have to prove it. But it's not like they're just playing way over their heads or anything like that. They can get it done. But I think they need to be road warriors here in the next week and get a couple away from home.
All right, well, a couple of colleges here in Jackson. First of all, what's kind of the latest goings on with programs at Lane?
Lane's having trouble. Lane's women are still winless, and the guys just have a couple of wins. I expected a little bit more out of the guys in particular. I think this year, I think Ryan Basemore was a little bit more optimistic that they could be competitive in the SIAC. It hasn't happened. There's a couple reasons that could be, but and there are some good teams in the league and everything like that. Lane hasn't been a traditional power at all in that conference, but I thought that they'd have more wins by now, obviously on both sides, and so they'll just have to pretty much, I think, at this point, wait until that conference tournament and just see what they can do.
All right. Well, this Saturday, all the teams from 4-year schools who are playing are on the road. That leaves 1 game here in West Tennessee, pitting 2 West Tennessee schools against each other in the junior college ranks as Dyersburg State and Jackson State. Yeah,
I'd be interested to see. It's been a while since I've seen the Jackson State teams, and the women's team in particular has had trouble the last couple of years, but had a pretty, I think, optimistic outlook. They've got some better players, frankly, some better athletes than they've had in the past, but their record is not great. It's about 500, I think, and so. I'm a little bit surprised at that, and I'm curious to ask Coach Winders about what the rest of the month looks like and what he's sort of seen since Christmas. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle Dyersburg. And then the guys have had some success in the past. They're doing okay, but I think again Coach Hines probably was hoping for a little bit better record at this point, and we'll just have to kind of see how February goes, which I guess really is the case for every team. It's a really interesting part of basketball season if you're a basketball junkie, for sure, because it doesn't have the inherent drama that March does, but it sets a lot of that stuff up.
Exactly.
And you can really help your case by having a good February.
All right, well, Saturday afternoon, Craig will be covering Dyersburg State at Jackson State. Women start at 2, men start at 4. He'll be tweeting from there, and we'll have stories online and in Sunday's paper as well. Also, stories from all the other games involving local teams. So be sure to check all that out. Follow Craig on Twitter at JSWriterCraig for constant updates and just kind of I wouldn't say random, but
No.
but
Hopefully the helpful information.
yeah, a constant diet of information on Twitter concerning local colleges from JS Ryder Craig. But thanks for watching and tuning in and logging on and reading, and thanks for trusting the Jackson Sun as your #1 source for local sports news in West Tennessee.